History remembers battles, presidents, and speeches, but there is another story, one written in whispers, shadows, and footsteps across the darkened countryside. It is the story of the Underground Railroad, a secret network that stretched across America in the 19th century. A network not of steel tracks and engines, but of courage, sacrifice, and the unshakable belief in freedom. By the early 1800s, America called itself the Land of Liberty, yet millions of African Americans remained enslaved. The cotton fields of the South were tilled by hands that were never free. Families were torn apart on auction blocks, and human lives were measured in profit. The contradiction was glaring. How could a nation founded on independence live with such bondage? And yet, within this contradiction grew resistance, not only in uprisings or rebellions, but in quiet decisions made in the stillness of the night. Enslaved men and women began to seek passage northward. Some ran alone, barefoot across forests and swamps. Others fled with children in their arms, guided only by the North Star and hope. Out of their desperation, and with the help of those who opposed slavery, the Underground Railroad was born. This railroad had no iron, no engines, and no tickets. Instead, it had conductors, men and women willing to risk everything to guide fugitives to safety. It had stations, homes, barns, and churches where travelers could rest. And it had passengers, the enslaved, whose courage made every mile both a danger and a victory. The routes varied. Some led from the deep South toward northern states. Others reached as far as Canada, where the Fugitive Slave Acts held no power. Escape was never simple. Dogs, bounty hunters, and lawmen patrolled the land. Posters with rewards for runaways covered town walls. Every step forward was a gamble with life and death. And yet, the railroad endured because of people like Harriet Tubman. Born into slavery in Maryland, Tubman escaped in 1849. But she did not stop with her own freedom. Again and again, she returned south, guiding more than 70 people to liberty. Armed with nothing but determination and a pistol, she became known as Moses, leading her people through the wilderness. She once said, "I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." Her story became a beacon, proof that the railroad worked. But Tubman was not alone. There were countless others, Quakers who opened their homes, ministers who used their pulpits as signals, and ordinary farmers who left food along secret paths. In Ohio, Levi Coffin, known as the president of the Underground Railroad, sheltered over 3,000 fugitives. In Philadelphia, William Still, a free black man, documented the names and stories of those who passed through his hands, preserving a hidden archive of hope. Each of them risked fines, imprisonment, even violence. Yet they pressed on, because to them, morality was higher than law. The railroad was more than routes and shelters. It was a movement of faith, courage, and community. Messages were carried in coded songs, like "Follow the Drinking Gourd," a melody that pointed to the Big Dipper and the North Star. Quilts, sewn with special patterns, were hung on fences, signaling safe passage. Even sermons carried double meanings, with words of Exodus reminding listeners that bondage was never forever. Still, the journey was brutal. Nights, mothers muffled their babies' cries, knowing one sound could bring hunters. Every safe house was a sanctuary, but every mile was shadowed by fear. To flee slavery was to gamble everything: your life, your family, your future. And yet thousands took that gamble because the taste of freedom was worth the risk. The impact of the Underground Railroad went far beyond those who escaped. Each journey undermined the system of slavery, proving it could be resisted. Each act of defiance showed that humanity could not be chained forever. By the 1850s, the network symbolized a deep divide in America. Slaveholders demanded harsher laws. Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, requiring even Northerners to return escapees. This turned every street, every town, into a hunting ground. But instead of crushing the railroad, the law made it stronger. Resistance grew louder. More people joined, and the debate over slavery became impossible to ignore. When the Civil War finally erupted in 1861, the Underground Railroad had already shifted the nation's conscience. It had planted seeds of defiance that could not be uprooted. During the war, many who once fled became guides for Union troops. Their knowledge of secret routes now turned into military maps. Freedom seekers became freedom fighters. And when slavery was finally abolished in 1865, the railroad's mission ended, but its legacy remained. It showed that America's story is not only about leaders and battles, but about ordinary people who chose to act with extraordinary bravery. It taught that resistance is possible, even against overwhelming odds. Today, the Underground Railroad lives on as a symbol. Across America, memorials, museums, and preserved safe houses remind us of its history. But its deeper lesson is still urgent. It asks us, when laws defend injustice, will we obey them, or will we stand with humanity? When voices are silenced, will we remain silent too, or will we help them find passage to freedom? The Underground Railroad was not just a path to liberty. It was a declaration that freedom is worth every risk. It was proof that even in the darkest times, light can travel in whispers, in footsteps, and in faith. It was and remains one of the greatest stories of America, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Narrator, soft closing. And so the forgotten railroad continues to echo, not in steel and smoke, but in memory and spirit. A network of courage, invisible but eternal. A reminder that history is not only what is written in books, but what is carried in the hearts of those who dared to seek freedom.